Hello everyone and welcome back to Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. In the last episode, things went from bad to worse for us, and I'm gonna object to this as a Hail Mary. I don't think we have anything else. This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction. Yes. The only thing that seems clear is you're grasping, Mr. Wright. Crap, he's onto us, guys.
You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them?
Yes. Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there? Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark.
Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time.
Oh, guys, he's onto us.
Very well, Mr. Wright.
With all this evidence here, there's got to be something I can use.
The question is, which item can prove something is missing in the floor plan?
Oh, whoa, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, hold on. I'm gonna go back to the tape. I'm pretty sure I can. Yup, there it is. The blue badger was in front of the locker. Okay. Oh my god, didn't I say I was gonna be so excited if I got to use this as evidence?
What about that piece of plywood?
The blue badger, mascot of the police force, defender of truth, guardian of proof. Oh boy. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The blue badger is not here. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well,
what?
No. Oh, we got him! That's right. So long as the blue badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint at this spot on the locker.
What?
Why is he so freaked out?
That means, just what exactly does that mean?
It means it can't be done.
What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker.
Don't look at me, I didn't put it there. Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically. Emma, on that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the blue badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would have been impossible to leave the handprint on that locker. So that must mean this blood mark was left there before the blue badger was brought in.
Just one moment, I will not allow such a far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom.
May sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape, taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is, the other time? Wouldn't Meekins have noticed the blood on the locker, though? Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered. This is ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. When did the first incident occur? 4 o'clock. No, 4:20.
To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room.
That's right, the blood mark on the locker proves this.
Very well, tell us. When did this first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented.
Proof that shows when the murder took place. There's only one piece of evidence that can show that.
Now then, will the defense please present its evidence? What shows when the first crime took place?
I think I know. Where is it? So yeah, it would have been between 420 and 440. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have had to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required.
An ID card? Oh, the ID card record.
Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at... okay, no, so it would have been between 4:50 and 5:15. Okay. I still need to... I want to know what's going on with those sevens.
If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40 p.m. Miles Edgeworth, just what have you done? I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy.
Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me.
Nope, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either.
It's clear from the luminol test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible.
That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room.
Let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining, the sevens.
Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room?
Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. Oh, maybe someone let him in? That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with the 777777.
Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 777777.
That's one 7 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least at present.
What? Explain yourself, son.
The ID number 77777777 belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher. Someone who is a so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. But that's ridiculous. Just how... I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted to such authority.
If an official charge is filed against an executive is accepted.
An official charge?
You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates.
I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself.
Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask a question.
Yes.
No, not you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive.
Lana? Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course, we've looked up her ID number. And it's not 77777.
Don't blame me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident. The SL9 incident? Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. That trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence?
You need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor. I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time, occasionally, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least I did. Lana? I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law.
Defendant, what are you saying? I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say that you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't!
I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana, even if it involved forging evidence. Oh boy.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
No. No. Uh-oh.
Order, 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 order!
Lana's remarks caused such a stir. The chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion of the trial would have to wait until the following day. No! Alright. Well, that's too short to call an episode, even though that seems like a really good point. Alright. Oh, man, we're back to investigating. So we only had, this is it. This is our last investigation. I'm so sorry, Mr. Wright. I'm sorry for what my sister said. Yep, we just saw this. I didn't know. I never knew that the SL9 incident was just another name for the Joe Dark killings. Sounds like everyone's heard about these killings but me. Lana wanted Dark convicted so badly. That's why she used me. That's why she used what happened to me. What do you mean what happened to you? It's all there in the file. Joe Dark's last victim was Prosecutor Neil Marshall. When he murdered Officer Marshall's brother, he left behind an incriminating piece of evidence. But what did you have to do with those killings, Emma? On the night Prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered, Joe Dark tried to kill me. What? He tried to kill you? Officer Marshall's brother, Neil, was only trying to save me. So that means you... Yes, I was a witness in the Joe Dark trial. I didn't see that one coming. Alright. It happened 2 years ago. It was right about this time of year, too. There was a terrible thunderstorm that day, unusual for the season. I was alone in my sister's office. We were planning to eat dinner together once she finished her work. Then suddenly, this terrifying man came bursting into the office. Joe Dark. It seemed like he was running from someone. He pulled out a knife and screamed at me. I didn't know what was going on. Just then, Prosecutor Marshall showed up. Big Marshall's brother. Joe Dark tried to take me hostage, but before he could, Mr. Marshall tackled him. Then, what happened? I'll never forget it. Lightning struck and the lights went out. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning flashed outside the window, lighting up the office for an instant. What I saw then burned a permanent picture in my mind. I can still see it now. Permanent picture. I don't remember the moment when Dark stabbed Mr. Marshall, so you weren't able to testify about that. No, I was only asked about when I was attacked. That must be why she made up the crime. Made it up? You mean provided bogus evidence? The prosecutor's office wanted that guilty verdict so badly. Lana forged the evidence and Mr. Edgeworth used it. Edgeworth? Yes, but I'm sure he didn't know anything about it. He couldn't have known he was being given false evidence. Even so, that's when it all started. The rumors about Mr. Edgeworth, I mean. It's all my fault. If I could have just testified properly, none of this would have happened. So it's true, even though he may not have known it, Edgeworth really was involved in falsifying evidence. After that case ended, Lana was never the same. She became cold like she is today. She must not have been able to face up to what she did, especially not to Emma. What did you see in the instant that crime occurred? The dark knocked down Mr. Marshall and raised his knife. No, Marshall was stabbed right in front of this poor girl. I don't remember what happened after that. Apparently I passed out. When I came to, Lana was cradling me in her arms. Poor Emma, you've been through so much. Alright. Why would Dark leave a witness? Why wouldn't he have stabbed her too? That's... I think that's part of this. I think that's gonna be a factor. I couldn't bring myself to testify about that instant. I tried, but the words just wouldn't come out. I drew a picture, but it wasn't any good. 2 years ago, you must have been 14. That's understandable. Once it was all over, I made up my mind. I decided that when I grew up, I'd become a scientific investigator. I wanted to be able to fight crime with my testimonies and find the evidence to make an airtight case. That way Lana would never have to forge any. I see. I think I'm finally starting to understand what makes Emma tick. But there's still something that bothers me about that crime. There's something that's puzzling me, Emma. What is it? You said you were in Lana's office at the time, right? That's right. Why then would a serial killer come running in there? Not only that, but he was being chased by a prosecutor? Oh, there's no mystery there. Oh. Joe Dark had been taken in for questioning that day. Taken in for questioning? You mean by the police? Of course. This happened at the police department. He tried to run away halfway through the interview and fled into my sister's office. But why did he run all the way over to your sister's office? Because the detective's offices and the questioning room are right across from the elevator. Across from the elevator? But Lana was the chief prosecutor, wasn't she? No, silly, didn't I tell you? 2 years ago, Lana was a detective. She was the best in the entire force. What? That's news to me. After the Joe Dark case, she was transferred to the prosecutor's office and made chief prosecutor. Lana used to be a detective. I'd better have another talk with her. Alright, let's present this stuff and see what we get. Mr. Goodman didn't have this on the day of the crime, right? Right. A few days before he was murdered, he had filed a lost item report, although stolen item is more like it. Swiped by that lone wolf who dressed up like him. I never would have thought Officer Marshall was the type to do something like that. It didn't come as much of a surprise to me. I bet you'd be pretty happy with the King of Attorney's shield too, huh? You defense attorneys are a scattered, unorganized bunch. Still, I wonder why the trophy shield is broken. It is pretty odd, huh? That has anything to do with this case. I don't buy it! I think it does! So Mr. Edgeworth's knife was the murder weapon. Right, or so the witness Miss Starr claims. She saw your sister stab Mr. Goodman with this knife. You know, all of this is that Angel Starr's fault. She's not the one on trial here. Well, no, but she must have seen it wrong. Her eyesight isn't on trial here either. Yeah, it's alright. Maybe I'm just gonna go with the new evidence, I think. There's only one number left to check out. That's right, we now know that other numbers aren't related to the murder. 77777777, an executive officer. Come on, we've only met one executive officer so far, come on. I believe that's 17 too many. Can't find out whose number this is unless we have some incriminating evidence. It's going to be hard to dig up by tomorrow. Mr. Edgeworth is so kind giving us something like this. Hey, you don't think he likes me, do you? Are you okay, Emma? Mr. Wright, hurry, run! It's you. Here, I'll wipe those fingerprints off your face. Might as well wipe my dignity away too while you're at it. The screwdriver was at Edgeworth's office, wasn't it? Yes, he said it didn't have anything to do with the crime. And what are we doing carrying it around? Hey, don't ask me, I'm not the one making the decisions around here. If I recall, Edgeworth said Chief Gant asked him to take this to the prosecutor's office.
Mr. Goodman didn't have this on the day. Oh, okay. That's the same. Here, see this? Ah, alright. Yep, that's nothing. The glove. Also nothing. We examine this. I feel like I've gotten away from that, and it's gonna hurt eventually. This jar's pretty fragile. It looks like it's about to break apart. What do you mean about to? It's already broken. I meant again. This piece was found in Detective Goodman's evidence locker. That means this is somehow related to that other incident. His fingerprint was left on the locker when Marshall was stashing his bloody coat. I guess that blood wasn't Mr. Goodman's after all. Nope, just that of an overly zealous patrolman. So there wasn't a murder at the police department at 5:15 in the end. I wonder what's going to happen to Officer Marshall now. We owe our entire success in court today to this tape. At first I thought it was a joke, but it turned out to be a gold mine of evidence. I counted a total of 5 clues in it. I also gave the Blue Badger some publicity. Of the negative sort, that is. It seems everything is somehow related to this incident. What was it labeled again? The SL9 incident? Yes, the name of everyone connected to this trial is listed in here. All that's left is to figure out just what role everyone plays in this case. If we search hard enough, I think we'll find our answers. What exactly did or didn't Lana do? I'm not sure I want to know everything. Alright, I think that's everything that we haven't seen before. I think we're going to call it an episode here. We'll begin our investigation in the next episode. And see, I have a feeling we're going to need Gant at some point. I feel like that was his number. I don't know that I think that he did it, but I mean, we've only seen one executive, and I'm pretty sure that was him, so it seems like that would be his card. But I'm wondering if it's going to be as simple as just like he let Goodman in because Goodman's ID card was gone. But I think we at least need that information, so that's kind of where my head's at now.
I love this. I'm glad we're still going. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.